from very early on of my photographic studies, I started to travel to the north of Finnish Lapland, and I started to collaborate and work with Finnish Sami people, especially the Sami group of people, maybe some 700 living in the northeastern territories of Finnish Lapland. And that kind of became my university in the bush. I did a project, documentary work, black and white documentary project with Sami people, and finally graduated in '78, and then having my first ever solo exhibition based on the same material. It was very much documentary, black and white documentary work. By the end of '70s and early '80s, I got in crisis, or thinking that I could not go on working with documentary practice in the way I had done earlier, because all those critical questions of how can a documentary represent somebody else's reality, these kind of disturbing questions. It took me for quite many years to find a new approach to photography, and slightly I moved from documentary praxis towards something. I wouldn't say it was not conceptual photography. I borrowed ideas from conceptual strategies and kind of adapted them for my own personal use. I'd been working in different archives, picture archives, from mid-70s on. When working doing a documentary project with Sami people, I went very often to picture archives, ethnographic and historic picture archives, to see the old photographs, to do research work and trying to understand the circumstances where these people were living, to understand more precisely of their culture and so on. So this came kind of like a habit. I went on and on, time after time. I went to see picture archives, and maybe the same photographs, but every time I went there to see images, I could find a new approach or new details and some new information. So that kept me going to archives. And so finally I started to consider to do a project on the idea of portrait, because portrait as such has always fascinated me in paintings and in photographs. Like the faces of a completely unknown person can deliver the deepest human value. So that was very much my fascination. And the idea for the project was about distances, among other things. It was about distances in time and space. Like I was thinking that time when the pictures were taken in 1884, or some pictures even earlier, and some later, and basically what I was thinking was that I returned every image from the Paris collection to the very place where the picture had been taken more than 100 years earlier, but it was impossible to find them and to complicate it. So I read some research on Norwegian Sami nomadism, and I was looking for the wandering routes where Norwegian Sami had wandered with the animals to the seaside for the summer and then back to the mountains for the winter, and I was using those routes where I took the pictures. I was working with another project in an art museum. I worked with historical portrait paintings, 300-400 years portrait paintings, and looking at those portrait paintings, I was very often observing shimmering reflections and shimmering lights coming from the windows of the museum, and see the play of shadows and lights on the surface of historical paintings. And for many years I was thinking of doing something about that, and that was the technical starting point for Icy Prospects. But the inspiration came from many other sources. What I did was that I sanded a wooden board, maybe this size wooden board, very carefully, painted it black, and then sprayed a varnish layer on top of the wooden board. So basically it worked like a black mirror. I took it to the Arctic landscape, and I started to document the reflections of Arctic landscape and seascapes on the surface of this wooden board. And this is how the project proceeded and went on. It was very much about like re-evaluation of photographic medium, my tools and my practice. So, but also at the time, early 90s, it was I was using postmodern strategies, and especially I'm considering stage photographs, which were very much used at the time. So basically the idea was to show that photographs are neither windows nor mirrors, but they are constructions of reality.